Hey guys, welcome back to Fiona's Universe, or welcome if you're new. The mic sounds really weird in my ear. Better? In today's video, we're going to start/continue a little series that I came up with, and it's going to be doing a deep dive into all of my completed projects. So if you've been here for a minute, you have probably seen my talking about all my books video, explaining them very briefly, and that was a nice long video, but again, I wasn't able to go super deep into each project because of how many there are. I thought it'd be really fun to actually make videos dedicated to each of my completed projects. So today's is going to be for the Nameless series, which is my fantasy series you might have heard me refer to in a lot of different videos, like my titling video, maybe even my 2024 writing wrap-up. I think I'm gonna do this with all my completed projects except for the fanfictions. So from that video, the completed section, expect to see a video on each of the projects except for the ones I established as being fanfictions. And if you're wondering what this video is going to be about, I'm just going to talk about the characters more, the plot more, and then also like setting, world building, stats, like word counts, amount of time it took me to write it, everything like that. And because this is a series, I'll tell you like how many books are going to be in the series projected, and you know, a little bit of where it's going beyond book one. I just wanted to start out by saying I'm really grateful for you guys. I've been getting the sweetest comments on my recent post, which was starting another new book idea, like telling you guys about it. And you are so nice about like me being so transparent about my work and like sharing all my details and stuff. And like that's something I just really love that you guys appreciate so much, because I appreciate it so much and I love sharing. So can't wait to do it even more today. There is gonna be like some tips videos on my channel and like vlogs and stuff on my channel coming up, but I needed a good sit down video to film today because I have a crazy weekend coming up. So you guys will probably see this on Tuesday by when I will already be back in school. By then, by when, I don't know how to say that, but I'll already be back in school. And no, you guys are not here to listen to me whine about school, so I'll stop. But I will talk about the Nameless series for you now with some basic stats that you ought to know before we get into the rest of the deets. One thing I should say is that I have revised something Nameless. A lot of my works are not revised or edited. This one is fully revised except for the last 5 chapters, because that's when like the romance scenes start to get really intense, like in terms of like, not spice because it's a YA, but like, you know, you can add a little bit of spice into YA without it being like smut. Yeah, and my parents have both read this book, so it really hurt me to relive those scenes knowing their eyes had been on them. And my parents don't read any of my books, but they both like were interested in this one for some reason, so I like let them read it. Anyway, that's a story for another time. But because I'm revising it, it has grown in words since like I first finished the draft last March or April. And now it sits at 101,790 words. I'm really bad with numbers. Words are my forte, so if I struggle with saying that number, I'm sorry. But yeah, that is my longest completed work ever. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen my 2024 writing recap, but I wrote this book in a timeline of March 2024 to like, I think it was April 6th I finished it. So I wrote all those words in the span of like a month's time roughly, and I had done like a lot of the planning in February. So that was not all like the whole process done in March, but it was a lot. So wow. And I wasn't doing like NaNoWriMo, wasn't doing Camp NaNoWriMo. I was just wanting to write it. Like nothing was like making me write that exactly, other than my own like desire to put it down on the page and get it out of my head, because there was just so much like story in here for this book. And even more lore for you on the creation of this world was in December of 2023. I really wanted to start a new project. I had been kind of bouncing around for a while, not able to find something I wanted to focus on, and then I got this idea for a fantasy series where something nameless, roughly the plot happens, but I didn't have enough, so I like left it alone. I wrote like one scene about dragons and then I just left it, and then one day in February it just exploded in my head about the title, which if you guys have seen my how to title a book video, I'll put it in the iCards. I have like 2 methods by which I title books, and this one actually, I for the longest time thought it was method 1, where I have a bunch of words and I like mix them up, and I did it for the rest of the books in the series, so I did use that. But Something Nameless has been on my titles ongoing list since Partial Stars, which is one of the first completed books I ever had when I was 15. Well, I finished it when I was 17, but like that's an old work of mine, and it's been on the list since I was titling Partial Stars, which actually happened when I was 15, like in the early stages of writing it. Can you believe it's existed for that long? I'll explain to you how it fits it so well. So book 1 is titled Something Nameless, and honestly, it works really well. I don't know how I'm gonna explain it though. Like, this main character has multiple names, and there's a lot of different reasons why, but she doesn't really identify with any of them really, except for Envy. And the same goes for like a lot of characters in the book, like Azul and Viridian, and even Eden later in the series. So I'll get more into who those people are in a minute, but they don't really feel like they have a place, and also their names are very reflective of how much their parents or guardians care for them, which in most cases is not very much. So they refer to themselves as nameless a little bit. Also, there's a quote in the book, because you guys know I love to put my titles into the writing at some point, just as a little like homage, and I think it says something nameless had its hold on my world, and she's like, I'm gonna stop it. In the very basic terms, that's what the gist of it is, and it's true. Something nameless does have a hold on her world. Well, it may or may not have a name, but Miss Envy does not know that yet. Book 2 is going to be called Nameless Souls, which you might have heard me talk about a few times when I talk about whips, and it's one that I really want to get finished this year. It's the second book. It's gonna be quite devastating. Quite devastating. I can't even think about it without like feeling things. And then the third book in the series, the final book in the series, is going to be called Briefly Nameless, because at the end of the book, essentially she like decides on what she wants to be called moving forward. It's very important once you know all the lore and stuff, but like that book is gonna be, again, kind of devastating, but also like the final battle, I would call it. I'll go more into like the trajectory of the story soon, but it's gonna be a lot, and there's gonna be a lot of self-reflection, and also talk about how we only exist briefly. With titling, I really liked how the first one is Something Nameless, the next one goes more like starting out with Nameless Souls, and then the third one goes back to blank Nameless, Briefly Nameless, you know what I mean? I thought that was really fun instead of just making all of them the exact same. And then also there is going to be roughly 3 novellas, roughly 3. I have already written one, and it's called Forenamed. It's book 1.5 of the series. It's from the 2 main dragons' point of views, Kato and Rozu, and they are so cute. They're like mated or bonded, and they're the main characters' dragons, and they have a lot of history and a lot of things that we will not know unless we got their point of views. And they actually, in the second novella, are gonna get like an egg, a baby, and the third one, I haven't decided, since it's like gonna be a believe me type thing, if you've read Shatter Me, like where it's a follow up to the series, like an epilogue almost. I haven't decided if I'm gonna do it from the dragon's point of views yet, but I don't need to know that right now. There's also a cat with the same curse as they have. Her name is Fable. I've been playing around with the idea of having her have a point of view in the second novella as well. She doesn't have one in the first one, but I don't know, I think it'd be kind of funny, and like since that's such a dark time in the series, I want to like give it a little bit more of like a lighthearted feel, especially for the novella, because people are gonna be, you know, paying to read it, and I don't just want it to keep being sad. But I don't know. So Forenamed is the first novella, and then the second novella I've been playing around with a few different names, and that would be Misnamed, Namesake. I think Namesake might be it, because the dragons have like recurring names in their like lineage, and that's kind of what namesake means, having the same name as another person. And yeah, those are like what I'm playing around with. I don't have it very established. The third one might be unnamed, for like an unnamed child. I don't know, man. I don't know. We're gonna stop talking about titling now. You guys know that I like to be completely transparent about my plots and stuff on here without like giving away the end most of the time. Sometimes I do, but for this one, like, I'm a little bit worried about making this video because I really can't share anything past the halfway point without giving away like the main part of the first book. So I really don't know how to like go about this, whereas a lot of the other completed works I have on this list are going to be a lot easier to share the entire plot of without like completely ruining it for you guys. As I mentioned before, I'm also like actively working on revising this one and getting it perfect for publishing houses, so like it's a little bit more like guarded in my heart because I know that it's like, I don't think it's gonna be my debut necessarily, but it's like, it's really important to me and I want to protect the idea, if that makes sense. But I'll tell you everything else other than like the halfway point because oh my god, I just want you guys to experience it for the first time like my parents did, and like they were so shocked, and I just need that to be a moment for you guys. So trust me, please, trust me. Let's talk about the main character. Her name is Seven Astoria Thorne, but she goes by the name of Envy. Some people call her Evan because when her father was alive, he was a very grumpy ruler. He has no magic, and he wanted her to be referred to as Seven because she was born on the 7th, and he never wanted her because she was born with her mother's curse of being half dragon, and he just thinks of that as an abomination. So he called her Seven because that's the day that she was born. And then she decided, no, actually people can call me Evan because I don't identify with the name Seven. And then eventually when he passes away, she goes by Envy, which I think is so powerful. Once you read the book, that sort of trajectory of her names makes a lot more sense, and she kind of explains it, especially in the novella as well. We hear it through Rosu, her dragon's point of view, and we also get to know potentially her mother, who has been missing for years, so that's pretty cool. But that's essentially Envy. I would say she's a very Katniss meets pretentious type of character, so like very lethal, very like skilled with her weapons and her magic, but also like arrogant almost. And she matches Riven so well, who is the male main character. He is the ruler of Arathia, whereas Envy rules, I don't even remember the names of these places. It's been so long. Oh yeah, okay, Envy rules Edasis, which is like on the upper side of the world, and then the southern side is like another island, and it's Riven's, and he rules Arathia, which is, that's what that's called. I'm sorry, I need to get my thoughts straight. I'll do a picture of the map on the screen. I don't think I lost the picture. I lost the login to that account, but I think I have a screenshot of it somewhere, at least from TikTok. So that's like roughly what the world looks like. It's called Izera, or Izara, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'm just gonna let everyone pronounce it the way that they want to. Basically, I would describe the world as being mostly ocean, but there is a lot of traits to each of their islands or provinces that kind of establish them, and I like to explain it as Edasis is more of like a winter in Tacit, and then a spring in Karst, and then in Arathia it's more of like a summer. There's beach in like the southern part, and then there is a forest, so I don't know, autumn, or just like a magic forest that is very sought after and very important. But yeah, the king is described as being very like reserved. He lives on his own like separate island, like off of Arathia's like main shores, and he does not like people. Like, he's rumored to be very wicked and very unhelpful to his people, which is not true, but they have a sort of rivalry as they would with two provinces. And then there's also a dragon territory, but there's no people living there, not yet, or so we think. And anyway, yeah, that's like the main world for you. The only sort of like magic system around Izara is the dragons. Like, they are the magic, and then there's also witches who have beings of their own, and the forest is full of magical creatures. But like, yeah, the witches have a lot of the magic, and then the dragons have the most magic. So yeah, essentially the rulers, like Riven, Envy, and then their ancestors on their mother's sides, they are half dragon. So that's a pretty cool element of my two main characters. The book starts out with Envy writing an injustice that her father had had in place for 15 years, I think, and it was that their province of Edesis had kind of dwindled in population. He always feared that Arathia was going to attack them with war, or, you know, that they would have to attack Arathia to get some of their magic, because it's a lot more thriving over there with the forest and everything. So he made the women have like multiple children each, like against their will. It's not gone into in very much depth yet, but she essentially like has the dragons come and burn the 4 men who are responsible for like the installment of that role. It's a pretty cool scene, and we later learn that Riven was there, but we don't know that right away, so that's pretty cool. But then there's like a ball, and eventually she gets word that something weird is happening in the sea, and you know, her dragon kind of tells her like, yeah, there's something going on. Rosu knows, but then she gets word that from her brother that Riven, the king of Arathia, is coming to discuss what's going on with the sea. And they learn together after Riven comes, and there's a big enemies to lovers moment. They want to kill each other. Well, Envy wants to kill him, and she learns that he's cursed as well, because she does not know that beforehand. They learn that Mount Lore, it's a mountain in the middle of the sea. It's like the only other standing like island area, except for one other that's a secret. And it's like been weird. So that's why it's called Mount Lore. Like, there's a lot of like shipwrecks that happen around there. There's rumored to be a sea serpent, and they have started losing a lot more ships in that area of the ocean, and they've even noticed on both of their shores that the sea is like behaving weirdly, essentially. I know I'm giving you guys a lot. I just had to take a break and drink some coffee because I feel like I'm like spewing, and I really hope it's making sense, or at least kind of interesting to you. I'm sorry. But they begin to get to know each other as they prepare for their journey across the sea to Mount Lore, which sort of is between their 2 provinces and like more to the north. And they end up going on their dragon back, and they see some stuff. Essentially, they see this crater that has been like carved into the top of the mountain that was once just like a regular mountain in the middle of the sea. And it looks really strange to them. They don't know what it is, and they end up going on a little trip to Arathia then to spend the night. And Riven collects a book that he's suspected has to do with Mount Lore for a while, but it's in the old Arathian language, so he cannot read it. But Riven knows a lot more about this than he lets on to Envy. He knows a certain wizard that is very important in it that she does not know until like the midpoint of the book. He also has friends who even can translate Old Arathian, because they're like ancient. So they go to the dragon territory, and we learn that there is actually people there. There is 3 of them that live there, and oftentimes a 4th, which is Riven. It's essentially like a jungle on the dragon territory, and so there's a really pretty like setting of the sanctuary, they call it. So there's like a waterfall, and it only welcomes in people who the people who own it welcome. So that would be Viridian, because she created the whole thing with her earth powers. So that's really hard to explain. Let me think for a minute. But we meet Viridian, Azul, and Eden. Let me explain them to you each so that this makes more sense. We'll start with Eden because we meet her first. So she actually tries to assassinate Envy as soon as she sees her, because she's like, why is there this stranger on my land? She's very like bad bleep. Can't really say that on here. And she's like a warrior from Tacit, which is Envy's province, the north. So like winter, ice, and like a lot of like goods and stuff that they send to the main kingdom. And yeah, she is secretly a dragon breeder, and she has like a lot of siblings. She's got red hair, and she is dating and will be engaged to Viridian, who is one of the twins, and I can call them the twins because I am a twin. Do not even get me started on that. One time I had someone yell at me for calling Fred and George Weasley the Weasley twins. Oh my god, don't get me started on that. Anyway, they kind of call themselves the blue twins, or like some people refer to them as that, because they both have like a very magical quality to them. They have like iridescent blue that reflects off their skin, and they have bright blue eyes, and that's because they come from the sky. The witches of Riven's forests in Arathia had created them as like an experiment, and they raised them. They didn't raise them very nicely though, and so Riven eventually discovered these two young people on like the outskirts of his land, and he started this new dragon territory camp sanctuary with them. Eventually, on one of their trips to get supplies and stuff in Tacit, they met Eden. Eden came back with them. Eden immediately bonded with them, obviously, because she's very close with the dragons. And she actually has a dragon named Maddox who trusts her entirely. Like, they're bonded because she raised him from when he was a baby. She's raised a couple other ones, but he is like the first one. So they're very close. And she also has the earth powers. As I said, they both kind of have a power from the sky, who is actually a goddess, but I haven't explained that part yet. And since they both came from like the elements in the sky, they both have sort of like elemental magic. So hers is like very rooted in the earth. She was able to create the sanctuary, and her dragon, or Kato, not her dragon, Riven's dragon, was able to put wards around it so that it like doesn't let unwelcome people in, and so that it can remain very secret. But her brother Azul has like weather and climate magic, so he can like command storms and stuff to happen, and like he uses that in the plot. And he is very funny, and he's very silly and goofy, and he's also very smart. So he ends up being able to translate this journal. They figure out it's a journal. It's a book about Mount Lore and about something that had happened in the history, like I think 20 years prior, like around when Envy was born, with Mount Lore, and how this certain like crater thing had happened once before. And they end up learning that this journal, they already know, belongs to a man named Adonis, and Riven knows this. He doesn't tell Envy because it's kind of involves her a little bit. I think I'm getting interrupted by my cousins are here. My cousins being here. See, I can't speak, but I can write entire novels. Anyway, I gotta go for a minute. Bye-bye. I am back. My appearance is gonna get worse and worse as this video goes on because I need to shower really bad, and I'm disheveled because my life is in disarray, but we're just gonna get over that for now. Just gonna get over that. I needed to get ready today to film this for you guys because I love you and I want to keep this up even though my life is about to be turned on its head, but that's okay. I'll get over it. I think we left off at Azul was translating the journal. They end up figuring out it belongs to Adonis, who's a wizard from Arathia. He is in a prison in Tacit. He's in the high security prison. There's also another prison in Arathia, but it's much less intense. And so they go to Mount Lore. They're like, oh my god, there actually is something here. It looks like a portal. Holy poop. Can't say the S word on here, unfortunately. And so they circle back. They meet some other characters who I don't want to disclose because it's a kind of big moment. Not really. But basically these people have been rumored to be dead. So they're not. Spoiler alert. But yeah, they help them to locate Adonis. And they meet Greta, who is one of the mythical beasts in the forest. She is a shapeshifter. She's one of the cursed ones, but she has a bit of a different curse than being half dragon. She is instead a shapeshifter, and she's also cursed to have all of the people of Arathia want to kill her because she was very greedy with the dragons, which is why they gave her better power, but also a bigger cost. Hey guys, it's Fiona editing this. I just wanted to say really quick that I never explained what the cost is for Riven, Envy, and all their ancestors' curse from the dragons. I will get to it, I promise. They basically can't speak, but you will hear me explain it in more depth. It slipped my mind until now. Like, at this point in the video, I mean. So, please hold your horses on that. I promise I will explain it to you because it's a very, very crucial plot element. So, yeah. She lives in, like, this layer, like underground type thing, and the wraiths of the forest, who are like a very big antagonist in the series, are terrified of her. So yeah, she scares them off, and that's like Envy's first encounter with the wraiths. She doesn't really know what they are before then, other than that they nickname Arathia Wraith because they're famous for their evil wraiths that the witches created, supposedly. And they basically like are very vengeful beings, and we don't know who they're vengeful toward until the second half of the book. I promise it will make more sense when you read it, but yeah, that's like the beginning intro of the wraiths and Greta. So then Greta, Eden, Riven, and Envy go to Tacit to the prison. They break in. It's a very high security prison. Greta becomes a scorpion to sting all the guards, and they're very unsuspecting, so her powers just really come in handy essentially. There's a lot of fight scenes where like Eden's warrior strengths really come to life, and so do Riven and Envy's. And then they meet Adonis. We learn something very gravitational where they think it's his fault that Mount Lore has been spawning this portal type thing, because in his journal it said that this had kind of happened before, and so they know that he has these abilities, but he ends up spinning it and saying someone else is doing it, and the person who he like essentially like accuses is like enough to shock Envy so badly that she has one of her visions. So basically with the visions, Rozu's family, the white dragon, the silver dragon, she has the power of sight, so like foresight, they can see the future, but it's like very subjective. And so Envy has always suspected that her little visions of this like weird white area and white room is just that, but turns out it's not. And yeah, Riven's power is actually pretty cool too. He can like sense emotions and read people really easily because of Kato's family lineage and Kato's like blood in his veins. And yeah, he can also ward and like alter people's minds, which is pretty cool. So like mind control powers basically. The full dragons, Rozu and Kato, were obviously very much more skilled in those areas, but it's cool to see how like the powers are gonna develop within their human counterparts, half human counterparts. But essentially that's like the midpoint, without a lot of like romance scenes and like cute little scenes and like tension scenes and stuff like that I left out just because they slipped my mind, and like I can't tell you every single chapter because it's not all like in here anymore. I wrote this like almost a year ago. But the second half of the book focuses on different characters. I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to say this, but essentially we get Nyla and Haven. So Nyla is a character who I can't talk much about. She was one of my favorite characters of the year though, so if you watched that video of my recap of 2024, I did talk about her. She's very, very cool. She's got a lot of struggles mentally, and like with her past, like she's gone through a lot of dark things. Her sister Haven is the complete opposite. She's gone through a lot of the same things, but she's just like a bubbly ball of energy and a little bit reckless. So funny. They're both very important in Izara as well, in the coming books. So like they have big roles, I mean. For instance, Haven has a very deep connection to the water. She's eventually going to develop into a mermaid. And then Nyla, I can't say much about again, but she has a very deep connection to Envy and Riven as well. The two of them get very, very close, which is where a lot of the romance scenes happen, like I was saying before. You might be wondering, why are you introducing these two new characters, 2+ more characters, at the halfway point of the book? I promise, I swear on my life, it will make sense when you read the book, okay? That's all I'm gonna say about the second half of the book. It's very vibey, very high stakes, like the rest of it. You learn a lot, but you don't learn everything. And the ending of the book is, I can't say, because again, it goes hand in hand with the midpoint. So it's just sad. It is a sad ending, but Rozu and Nyla are reunited, and yeah, that's all I can say. It ends very dramatically though, and it picks up in Nameless Souls right where we left off. Well, a few weeks later, and very apocalyptic, very dark, and you know, a lot has happened obviously, and a lot is going to happen. I have written like 20,000 words of Nameless Souls, by the way, so that's how I know all of this. Just talking about it is making me really want to like get into it again, like switch my gears again from like a Node to Amity, Project Princess, just go straight into the Nameless series, but I need to control myself. And if you haven't seen, I was talking about my new book idea, which is Node to Amity, which I just mentioned, so I thought I would plug the video because maybe some of you are confused and want to hear more about that one as well. So yeah, watch the video if you want to hear more about that book, but it's not like a high fantasy or anything. It's a supernatural romance. Check for the trigger warnings in the video, okay? What I can say is that Envy, Nyla, and Adonis all share a certain extra power on top of the dragons. So Envy has her half dragon abilities from her mother, who is named Hera. And then she has also adopted the ability of Adonis's dimensional magic, and so has Nyla, so that's pretty cool. Can't really say much about that, but there's a lot of cool dimensions that they end up going to in the second book. So yeah, there are so many other characters that I want to get into, such as Levi, Lindy, Shiloh, their mother, what's her name? I forgot. Weema as well, who becomes very important in the second book, who is Envy's best friend from the palace, and her mother, Morin, I think her mother's name is. Yeah, Morin, who is like one of Envy's mother figures in her life. And then also Gwen is another one who is a lot more of like an intense mother figure to her, and a maid, or like a maiden, you know, helps her with all of her queenly things. And then there's also Shiloh and Lindy, not Levi's mother, who I forget her name, but she's so sweet. Dara, her name is Dara. And Levi is Envy's biological brother also, by the way. I forgot to say that. Vaguely, Levi is a very lighthearted character. He's sort of got that innocent energy, whereas Envy has had to take on a lot of the less innocent things in her life and a lot of the more like traumatic and dark things. But he's like the younger prince, so he's very lovable in the kingdom. And then Lindy is his love interest, but it doesn't really begin as much in book 1, and she is a seamstress. She's so cool. Oh my god, she creates the coolest outfits for Envy and other characters, but she always makes sure to add like a touch of Envy, because Envy doesn't really like the whole like theatrics of being queen. She would rather just do her duties, and so she always like has like a little hidden dagger sleeve or something fun in there for Envy, so they're like friends. And then Weema as well, they're best friends, all three of them. And she lives in the palace because Morin works in the palace, her mother, and so she's grown up with Envy very closely. They spend most of their time in the library together. And Weema, being the daughter of a woman who works in the palace, she is very smart, and she also like gets a lot of the tea and the gossip, so she delivers it to Envy. That's how Envy ends up learning about the weird things going on with the sea and with Mount Lore. Shiloh is a character I added after the fact, actually. I always knew I wanted Lindy to have a brother, but he is so funny. Oh my god, he reminds me a lot of Levi, but he's so silly and funny, and he's a lot younger. So I always love to have like a bit of a younger character. He's not like a child, well, he technically would be, but he's like 16, I think. So he's a little bit silly and very lighthearted, goofy, that kind of energy. And their mother, Dara, I knew I said I wasn't going to go very deep into this, but Dara is just like the sweet mother, whereas Gwen has always been very like severe toward Envy, like not in a bad way, but like teaching her right from wrong. And then Morin has always been more of like the smart one, so she goes to her for a lot of advice and stuff. I have just realized I forgot like the most important thing about Riven and Envy. I was gonna say I'll put this at the beginning of the video, but I think it's kind of cool to reveal it now when we're like getting to the end. And that is that Riven and Envy cannot speak. I totally forgot to tell you guys that. And so that was hard to write. Like, they can't speak, but they can communicate with each other and with their dragons. So that is the curse. I didn't really get into the curse much, but Sable and Calypso are their like ancestors, and they went to the dragons hoping to start a dragon province separate to their own, because they didn't really like their male counterparts, the kings. So they wanted to start their own territory that they would rule with dragon magic, but the dragons end up cursing them because they don't give away their magic for free. And so they can no longer speak, whereas Greta, the third party in that, she has her entire kingdom who hates her because she asked for even more. She wanted to be able to be any creature in the world. She can, but anyway, that's like the lore about the curse. And then, yeah, that's why Envy cannot speak. Envy's mother could not speak, etc. So, yeah, and also Sable is Envy's descendant. The women are cursed in her family. And then Calypso, the men. So, sorry. Astoria is Riven's mother. She can't speak. His dad, grumpy, mean, rude, no longer with us. He was cursed, okay? And his grandfather, Same with Envy's grandmother. Like it goes, I think it's their great grandparents, so it goes down like a few generations, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm like spit firing all this info at you guys and you're just like probably not even processing, but I don't know, maybe you are. Anyway, that's like, there's a lot of lore because it's a fantasy book, so I'm sorry, I'm kicking my tripod. The other videos in this series are not going to be this like chaotic and in-depth because there's not as much to say about like a book that resides in our own world. So yeah, this one has to be a little bit more like, I'm just gonna tell you a lot of stuff, okay? And eventually one day it'll make sense. But yeah, that is like a little bit more about the side characters. I feel like I must be leaving somebody out. But briefly, the second book is going to be a pickup of where we left off in the first. So the characters are separated essentially, and they eventually are going to reunite, but there's going to be a wedding. It's going to be Viridian and Eden's wedding. Sorry, there's a lot of characters in my brain. It's hard to remember their names sometimes. At the sanctuary, which is going to be a very beautiful scene. And then a lot more about Envy and Nyla's visions. And then eventually something quite tragic. So I can't say that. But the third book, like I already mentioned, is going to be more of like the final battle scene where they have learned what they need to learn and they are very upset about it. And they eventually fill their ancestors' destiny. That's all I'm gonna say. And we might get another wedding between two main characters. The last thing I'm gonna briefly talk about is the romance between Riven and Envy Nyla situation. It's not exactly like a, what do they call that? A love triangle. So don't get worried because I know a lot of people don't like love triangles. Not at least in the first book. So don't worry about that. But yeah, Envy and Riven do a lot of enemies to lovers behavior, so a lot of flirting, a lot of tension, and they never officially like admit their feelings for each other, whereas Riven and Nyla do. Don't think that it's gonna be like a jealousy type thing. Like, it's so hard to explain this without giving stuff away, but Envy isn't gonna care that Nyla is involved, if that makes sense. It won't make sense, but I promise, like, Envy is not hurt by this situation, okay? Like, Nyla is our main character, essentially, so, yeah, psych, but they have a declaration of love, and, like, they're very much of a sweet, understanding love, whereas Envy and Riven are more of an enemies to lovers arc that is going to continue for this foreseeable future. So yeah, I can't wait for you to understand what that means, because, I know it's very confusing to have like 3 characters in a love dynamic. There's a lot of other relationships that will spawn, such as Wima and Azul, Lindy and Levi, like I already said, and then Haven and Shiloh as well, which is cool. I can't wait for those in the second book when there's a ball. And a lot of stuff is going on behind the scenes of the ball because the ball is a cover-up for mischief and scary things. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to me spew about all this. I feel like the only characters I didn't really get into are the dragons. Rozu, Envy's dragon, and Envy's lineage is linked to her because of her mother. And then Kato, whose father, same idea. He's a black dragon with gold eyes, hence Riven's black wings, golden eyes. And then same for Rozu. She has the traits of, Envy has the traits of Rozu, silver eyes, silver wings. That's another thing I had to keep in mind when writing them, is that they can't speak and they have dragon wings, so they can't sit in regular chairs. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And Rozu's very secretive, which we learn in 4 Names, the novella, because she can tell the future quite well, actually. She likes to pretend like the visions aren't gonna come true, but they will. And then Kato, again, he's very good with his magic. He can do the mind control, the wards, all that stuff, being interrupted. You can probably hear her sniffing. Come here, buddy. Come here. My mom brought me Jude so that Jude can be in the video. Look, Judy. Say hello. Your friends want to say hi to you. I love my Jude. And my video, but she's never in my videos because she doesn't like me very much. But yeah, I'm gonna go with standard description of Rozu and Kato, grumpy ex Sunshine. Even though Rozu's not very sunshine, Kato is very grumpy. That's all I'm gonna say about them for now. Jude, are you kneading? She loves this brown blanket I just got. Not the one behind me, this one. Hi, Judy, baby. You're so cute. Okay, I'm wrapping this up now because I've talked for too long, but yeah, I hope you've enjoyed listening to me talk about this fantasy series. I will do more videos about it because I'm gonna be writing it this year, more of it, other than just book 1. Jude, what are you looking at up there? Do you see a ghost? Is there a spirit? Okay. But yeah, I hope you've liked this. I hope that me not giving away the midpoint and like the end is not ruining it for you. Other books I will do that, just so you know. Other books I'll be fully like exposing the plot, but with this one, like it will ruin it. It will. So I don't know how I'm gonna market it even, but that's fine. Who cares? I hope you're intrigued. I hope you like it. There's a lot of characters and a lot of worlds to talk about with this one. My other ones are not gonna be like this as much, but yeah, for now, there you go with something nameless in the Nameless series. And like I said in the beginning of the video, I never told you this, but there's gonna be 3 novellas, 3 books. So 6 total works in this series. Except for I might remove the last novella if I don't feel like it's necessary, because I'm not just gonna put a book out if it doesn't need to be there. Does that make sense? Hope it makes sense. Thank you for all your love and support on my recent videos. I was actually demonetized for a few months, like right when I started restarting with my YouTube channel, hardcore. And if you don't know what that means, it means like I don't get any money for YouTube. So I'm literally working on passion alone, which is really simple for me actually, because this is my dream and I love doing it regardless of any other factor. But we're really close to being monetized again. And I've only been posting hardcore for like 2 months, and you need 4,000 watch time hours. So like, thank you so much, because that's a lot of watch time hours in like the last year. And I didn't post for over half of last year. So I'm really grateful for you guys, your consistent engagement, your comments. I cannot even believe some of the comments that I get. Not because they're bad, because they're so good and so sweet and supportive. And they actually, like, I cannot believe my eyes when I see them, because the fact that you're like, oh, I'm binging your videos, or like, your videos are you're my favorite authortube, or your videos are my favorite. I cannot believe that. I mean, I work really hard on them and I hope that people like them, but hearing it for real is like, makes my heart so full and happy, and I never know how to respond because I'm just like, thank you so much. I wish I could say it to your face, and I am now. So yeah, thank you so much. I love you. Hope you like the longer videos and spewing all the tea and talking about writing together. I love you. Also, really quick before I go, you can hire my manuscript critique services in the link down below on Fiverr. I made like a video integration about it recently, and I also have a video on Fiverr of me talking more about the details of that. So if you're interested, head over there and watch the video. It's a pretty affordable price compared to the industry, and yeah, I have a lot of experience with this. A lot, like 25 books. So yeah, that's my little spiel at the end of the video there, a self-promo if you will. But I really would like to work with you guys, so like, don't think of it as me trying to like, I don't know, it's a business, but like at the same time I really want to work with you guys. Does that make sense? I love you so much. Thank you for your patience with me in the upcoming weeks. I'm not going to be doing 2 posts a week, really, I don't think, in the future. I'll tell you if that changes, but I have to start school on Monday, so this will probably go out on Tuesday because I'm not around on Saturday or tomorrow, which is Friday for me. So yeah, I have a very busy week coming up and weekend. So yeah, I really appreciate your patience, and I will be trying to do 1 video a week no matter what. Like, that is my promise to you. 1 video a week no matter what. If I want to do another one, I will. Okay? I would love to do more, obviously, but I really can't when I'm like taking on all this other stuff like school. So anyway, I love you so much. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate you, and happy writing, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk as per usual.